What's up? It's your girl Frumpyfit. If you don't know who I am, I'm an online weight loss coach who's dedicated to calling out all the BS in the fitness industry and providing you with accurate fitness, nutrition, and weight loss information. I'm super excited for today's video. We are ranking popular fitness and diet trends on a scale that I came up with myself. I saw this trend done by Skincare by HIIFYM and Graham Stephan. So that's basically the kind of content that I watch on YouTube is skincare and finance. I also had somebody comment on TikTok one time that I'm like the weight loss version of HIIFYM, which is probably the best compliment I have ever received. Obsessed with HIIFYM. And he was like born in Arizona and lives in Hawaii. I was born in Hawaii, lives in Arizona. I feel like we're just like, you know, he doesn't know I exist though. Anyway, I'm gonna read out the different things that we're gonna rank today. I'm gonna read you the ranking system, okay? So the things we're ranking are, here are the diets: keto, carnivore, vegan and vegetarian, intermittent fasting, water fasting, calorie tracking, IIFYM, intuitive eating, clean eating, mindful eating, and then the fitness ones, I couldn't think of as many for fitness, but HIIT cardio, walking, fasted cardio, weightlifting, and yoga. So obviously these are gonna be like in the scope of weight loss, but I'll also make comments about like a non-weight loss scope in case anybody else is interested, but I'm a weight loss coach, so that's gonna be the general idea behind all of this stuff. And then our ranking system, it's gonna get put up on the screen right here, but the ranking system, I just came up with it based on how I feel like I feel on different levels. So the top level is grossly underrated, like so underrated. The next category is yes with 4 S's. The next category is you do you, like it's up to you, but like I'm not gonna make a comment. Overrated, like overrated. People think it does way more than it does, and absolutely not is the last category. So I'm really excited to jump into this. But before we do, this video is sponsored by Built, which I'm so excited about. You guys might already know because I talk about them all the time, but if you don't already know, they are so good. They taste way more like a candy bar than they do a protein bar. My favorite flavors so far are, because like they have so many flavors, I haven't even been able to try them all yet. And of course I wanna stick to the ones that I like the best, like that's how I am. But my favorite are white chocolate, cookies and cream, toffee almond, which I don't have any more of because I ate them all, and salted caramel, same story. The calories range between like 130 and like 160-ish calories per bar, and the protein is like 16, 17, 18-ish like grams of protein depending on the flavor. It's just like, I don't know how it's real, honestly. So if you want to try them, you can use the link in the description and it should automatically apply a 20% off coupon code, but if you need to type it in, the coupon code is right here. So thank you again for Built for sponsoring this video. All right, let's jump into the ranking. We have a lot to get through. I'm gonna try not to talk too much about every single one so that we can get through it, and this isn't an hour-long video, but I do wanna explain the context of my decisions. I haven't made any of these decisions ahead of time. I have like a general idea, but I don't know how this is gonna end up either, okay? So I'm looking this way because that's where everything is. We're gonna put it up on screen here. So I'm just gonna grab one. The first one is, ooh, clean eating. Let's see. I'm torn between you do you and overrated. I'm gonna go with you do you because like I know there are people who genuinely like to eat clean. I'm not one of those people, so that's why I'm like you do you. But if you're somebody that wants to enjoy like foods that aren't considered clean, whatever that means, that's also why I don't really like the whole clean eating thing, because it just assigns these weird like definitions to food that like aren't real. If you are somebody who doesn't want to have cookies or chips or ice cream or whatever, you know, depending on how you define clean and dirty, like you do you, but like you don't have to cut out any food if it doesn't make sense for you. So I have this video, should you cut out certain foods for weight loss? You can watch that to get more of my insight about whether or not you should eliminate certain foods or not. But yeah, we'll go with you do you for that one. But it was very close to being put in overrated. Okay, fasted cardio, overrated, 100%. So the reason it's not an absolutely not is because if you like doing fasted cardio, then do it. Like there's no harm. There's no harm in doing fasted cardio, but there's no additional benefit in doing fasted cardio. Like people assume because you don't have any food in your digestive system, like as you're sleeping overnight, you would have used maybe some of your glycogen stores up. They're thinking it's more likely that you're gonna use fat as energy, but here's the thing, especially if you're doing like intense cardio, the process to metabolize fat as energy requires a lot more time than it does to use carbohydrates as energy. So when you're doing cardio, you need the energy, like you need it in that moment. And so your body is always going to prioritize using carbs as energy when you're doing cardio, regardless if you're fasted or not fasted. So if you like doing it in the morning, cool, do it. But like there's no added benefit to doing fasted cardio in terms of like fat burn. Let's do carnivore diet. Okay. So that's an absolutely not. Automatic. Absolutely not. I can't imagine why anybody would think that not eating vegetables and fruit and legumes and whatever else, you know, is a good idea. That makes no sense to me. No sense. Okay. And so since I haven't done a ton of research on the topic of the carnivore diet, if there's some medical reason that you need to not eat fruits and vegetables and legumes, you know, fine. But in terms of weight loss, and I don't even know if it's a weight loss diet, I just keep hearing all about it, but absolutely not. No. And if there is some medical reason and you're being, you know, supervised by a medical professional or a dietitian or something like that of why you need to eat only meat. The thing with diets, and this is true for any diet, like no matter what the diet rules are or like the reason that you're doing that diet, I always want you to take a look at that diet overall, look at all of the different things associated with that diet and decide like, do every single one of these things make sense for me? You can always like build your own thing, you know, like take different things from different places and make your own thing. You don't have to follow something else. You figure out what is going to work for you as a unique individual. I would be surprised to hear of a situation where like strict carnivore is the right decision for someone. Let's go like the polar opposite of carnivore for the next one and do vegan veg. So I'm going to put vegan veg in, I want to put it in yes, because of the ethical and environmental impact of the meat industry. But I'm going to put it in you do you. Simply because I'm trying to think of things in the scope of weight loss specifically. So if we were talking about diets in general, it would be in the yes category. But in terms of weight loss specifically, it's you do you. I never think in general that you should make a decision about a diet solely off of weight loss being the reason. So as a weight loss diet, I would say a no to vegan, vegetarian. But if you're choosing to do vegan or vegetarian for ethical, environmental reasons, down. Always going to support that 100%. What I've been doing and like taking steps is I've been eating less meat and I've been trying to source my meat from sustainable farms that don't have as negative of an environmental impact and who treat their animals very well. So I'm literally like, it's expensive, but now that I can actually like pay my bills and I'm not poor anymore, this is a priority for me. That's kind of where I'm at and what I think about vegan and vegetarianism in general. I don't know if vegetarianism is a word, but in terms of weight loss, like that's the reason it's in you do you and not yes. Yoga, let's do yoga. I'm gonna put yoga in the yes category because I talk a lot about like resistance training being important for weight loss, very important to maintain or build lean muscle mass, keep your metabolism healthy, just so many benefits of resistance training. And I see a lot of bros out there saying that like yoga isn't resistance training. Let me tell you, I've been trying to like incorporate like 15, 20, 30 minutes of some sort of activity in the morning every morning. I did a 20-minute vinyasa yoga flow yesterday and I had to quit partway through because it was so hard and I'm very untrained. But even when I was trained, like when I was prepping for one of my bodybuilding competitions, I was also enrolled in a yoga class for credit because like as an exercise science major, like you have to take certain activity classes in order to graduate. So I picked yoga. And so in the midst of like me being the strongest I had ever been, yoga kicked my butt every single time. And so your own body can be used as resistance, which is the case for yoga. So that's why I'm putting it in yes, because that's how I feel. Resistance training is great for weight loss, and I think yoga is underrated in terms of what people think about when they think about resistance training. Okay. IIFYM, which stands for if it fits your macros. Basically, you get a certain number of carbs, fat, and protein that you're supposed to eat every day, and you try to hit those numbers exactly or within a close range. And the principle behind this and behind calorie tracking, honestly, is that you can kind of eat whatever you want, like no food is off limits, as long as you stay within your like allotted amount of macros or allotted amount of calories. And the thing with IIFYM is it developed this reputation for like people just eating nothing but like super calorie dense foods just because they can, because it hits their macros. And that doesn't promote health that doesn't promote satiety and like satisfaction from your meals. It got a little out of hand, and that was kind of like, I don't know what years, all the years have blended together at this point, but like IIFYM was super, super popular. So you can go about IIFYM in a way that's healthy, just like calorie tracking, but people tend to not do that. So for that reason, in terms of weight loss, I'm gonna do, I was gonna go with you do you, but I'm gonna go with overrated, definitely, because people don't really consider those other things like health and hunger and satiety when they're doing these things. So if you follow IIFYM and you aren't just eating like an a-hole all the time, like this doesn't apply to you. This is of course just like my very quick judgments and opinions about all of these things, but there's so many different ways to participate in all of these things that like, I'm of course going with like the stereotypical way that a lot of us think about these things. So please don't get offended if you follow one of these things and like the stuff that I'm saying isn't relevant to you. I know it can't possibly be relevant to everybody, but in terms of like people who don't know a whole lot about all these things or like are just curious in general, this is what this is for. What should we do next? We don't have anything in grossly underrated yet. Water fasting. Let's do water fasting. I'm gonna put water fasting in absolutely not. Absolutely not. I got a lot of questions about water fasting. It was super popular on TikTok for a while. And the reason I'm saying absolutely not is because it can be dangerous AF if you're not careful. Like if you're following water fasting, you need to be doing it in the appropriate way. As a bodybuilder, like coming from a bodybuilding past, I've done 2 shows. Manipulating water and electrolytes is something, and sodium specifically, is something that a lot of bodybuilders do in order to get like hella shredded. And so I personally have experienced how dangerous having your water and electrolytes or like water and sodium levels be out of balance. And I've known bodybuilders who have gone to the hospital after shows because they took it too far. For me, I just experienced like dizziness, nausea, and like mania. I don't know, like I was just like freaking out, sobbing, and I like, because I had increased my water and decreased my sodium that week getting closer to the show, and it just did not agree well with me. I think I'm somebody who needs a lot more sodium than like the average person for whatever reason. So I was still eating a normal amount of sodium and just had increased my water and taken it down from what my body was used to, and I freaked out. I have like a Snapchat of me in the middle of prep like crying and like eating a pickle to try and get like some sodium back without a bunch of calories. So
yesterday was my first day drinking 2 gallons of water, and I cut my sodium all the way down from like 3.8 grams, which is a lot, but like I feel like my body needs it, down to 2.5. And I feel like super nauseous and sick, and like now I'm crying for no reason. So my coach said no workout today, drink electrolytes, and salt my food. So now I'm eating a pickle.
Because it can be so dangerous, I'm putting it in the absolutely not category. And I'm also doing that because I'm looking at this in a scope of weight loss. You do not have to fast in order to lose weight. I think fasting can be a great tool. There are health benefits that are documented for fasting, and I need to do a little bit more research on it, but a lot of the benefits that you see from fasting, the general conclusions from those studies are that it's the calorie restriction that is giving you those benefits, which you don't have to fast in order to participate in some sort of diet that's resulting in calorie restriction. Like they find over long periods of time that people who follow a calorie restricted diet tend to live longer, I think is kind of the conclusions, but that doesn't always have to mean fasting. So there may be some health benefits, which I think like fasting in general, if you're doing it, do it for the health reasons, potential health benefits, not for the weight loss. Like if you're doing it solely for the purpose of weight loss, that's why it's in the absolutely not category. And especially if you're doing like water fasting where you're just chugging a bunch of water, please make sure you're making sure your electrolytes and your sodium are in the right place so you don't end up like me or like some of the other bodybuilders who ended up in the hospital. There have also been people who have died from it, okay? So be very, very careful. I think it's getting over glorified, which is why it's in the absolutely not category. HIIT cardio. I'm gonna put this in you do you. Like, part of me wanted to put it in yes, part of me wanted to put it in you do you, part of me wanted to put it in overrated. I do think that people think HIIT cardio is like magical, same thing like fasted cardio. It's not. I did talk in my Metabolism Explained video about how doing super intense activity is followed by a period of time where your metabolism is increased slightly. That is true. It's called EPOC, but it's not significant. It's not like anything crazy. Like, I don't like the phrase like boost your metabolism, and I wish I had explained this more in my boost your metabolism, like a Metabolism Explained video, because boost implies that it raises significantly and quickly, where that's not necessarily the case. We do see an increase, but it's not anything that's gonna like magically cause you to lose a bunch of weight super fast. And the reason I wanted to put it in the yes category is because I think it's a great tool for people who don't have a lot of time and maybe don't want to decrease their calories, but they are looking to stimulate, like maybe they've hit a plateau and they're wanting to stimulate some weight loss without having to do a whole lot of extra stuff, like not decrease calories, not add a whole extra day of workouts or like hours of workouts. I think that incorporating HIIT and burning a bunch of calories in a short amount of time is beneficial for people who maybe don't have enough time or don't have as much flexibility in other areas, which is why I think it can be a great tool. So that's why I'm just gonna kind of go in the middle with you do you. Like, if it makes sense for you, great. If it doesn't, it's not magical. Don't do it if you don't like it and it doesn't make sense for you. Let's do intuitive eating. So I'm gonna be a little harsh on intuitive eating, and I'm gonna put it in the overrated category. And so I wanna say immediately that this is because I'm looking at it in the scope of weight loss, right? So intuitive eating is not a weight loss diet. It's a great goal to have. And yes, some people have lost weight by doing intuitive eating, but it is like by nature not a weight loss diet. If your goal is weight loss, like a lot of people who like coaches who teach intuitive eating don't bring on clients to teach them intuitive eating whose goal is weight loss, because like that's not the goal. The goal is to heal your relationship with food. So in general, it can be a great diet, just not really in the scope of weight loss. I'm not an intuitive eating expert, but maybe it's a matter of like healing your relationship with food first and then going down the path of weight loss. And I keep seeing this trend of fitness people on Instagram or like even on YouTube who will say like, oh, full day of intuitive eating, when those people have like years of experience with tracking their food. And it's like, okay, you're not necessarily, like, I don't consider that intuitive eating because you have a huge breadth of information and experience that a lot of people who start intuitive eating don't have. So I don't think they're necessarily intuitive eating. Maybe they are eating based on their intuition, but it's different from kind of what a lot of people are talking about when they refer to intuitive eating. So if you yourself don't have any history like competing or tracking your food for long periods of time, like all of these like fitness people on Instagram and YouTube do, it maybe doesn't make total sense to follow their lead when it comes to intuitive eating because their background is very different than yours. So I'm not saying intuitive eating in general is overrated. I'm just saying for weight loss, my understanding of intuitive eating is that it is not a weight loss diet, which is why it's in the overrated category. Following that up, let's actually just jump into mindful eating because I feel like that's an interesting distinction between the two. So I'm gonna say grossly underrated for mindful eating. What I consider to be mindful eating is just like being mindful about your food. It's not a set definition. I would maybe call this like informed eating is what kind of like I was saying with all the people who have tracked in the past and now are doing intuitive eating. I think they're doing informed eating because they are much more informed than the typical person starting intuitive eating, I think. Of course, everything I'm saying is not going to apply to every single scenario, so keep that in mind. But mindful eating is what I think people can do. It's like a balance of intuitive eating, but like for weight loss. And there's like, if you Google mindful eating, I don't know what's going to pop up. I just started using this phrase. I have some principles that I think of when I think of mindful eating. I think I'm going to do an entire video talking about mindful eating. But for example, when I bring on a new client, even though I'm having them track their calories, I want them to be mindful while they're tracking. So I have them submit a food log to me where they're paying attention and logging down how they feel physically and mentally before and after they eat, how hungry they were before and after they ate, the reason they think that they're eating, like were they hungry? Was this their only opportunity in the day to eat? Were they bored? Were they stressed? Were they in a social situation? Like what, just being mindful. And there are certain questions that I'll have, like when I'm trying to lose weight and not tracking calories, I use mindful eating. And there are just certain questions that I ask myself. Am I really hungry right now? Is what I'm about to eat going to satisfy me or not? Is it going to keep me on track to my goals or not? And I just like try to stay really mindful about what I'm eating rather than paying no attention to it or paying so much attention to it that I'm like logging everything down and tracking it. So I think it's grossly underrated, but I think that's because like nobody's posting like incredible before and afters about it. It's not a defined diet. Like it's not, I didn't make it up. Like there are other people who talk about these concepts, but like not very many people are talking about this. So I think just simply being mindful about your food is grossly underrated for sure. Okay. Keto, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I know that there are medical reasons that people follow a keto diet, which again, if that's you, do you. I'm not going to tell the entire world to never, ever, ever do keto. If you genuinely feel like it can fit your lifestyle and you're going to enjoy it, then cool. That could never be me. I know a lot of people who do start keto do it not because they enjoy it, but because they think it's some magical weight loss situation, and it's not. There are a lot of different things that will impact your weight and impact the scale, and sodium is a huge one and carbs are a huge one. So I can't remember the exact number. It's in my nutrition textbook that's right there. But there's a certain amount of fluid, of water, that your body holds onto depending on how many carbs, like how many grams of carbs you're eating. So for every gram of carb, there's a certain amount of water that your body will hold on to. And when you go keto, you no longer have any carbs in your system, so your body is not holding on to that water. So the significant weight loss that keto people experience in the first week is all water. All of it. And so when they introduce carbs back into their diet, they typically gain that weight back. The whole argument with keto is like you don't need carbs to survive. That is true, but carbs are your body's preferred energy source. Keto can be dangerous. Back when I was in college, back in like 2015, I feel so old. My physiology professor, my anatomy and physiology professor, was talking about how dangerous keto can be. And I think a lot of people go into it not understanding all of that. So if you understand the whole thing, like if you know that it's not a magical weight loss cure, if you know that there are potential dangers with it, like if you understand the full picture and you still want to do keto, cool. But I think in terms of, again, only making that decision based off of weight loss, I would say absolutely not. You have to have other reasons for wanting to do it in order for it to be successful for you. That's what I'm going to say about keto. Okay, we've got 4 more. Let's do weightlifting. Weightlifting is grossly underrated. I am obsessed with weightlifting, obviously. Coming from a bodybuilding background, it's like I would say dancing is probably my #1 favorite type of physical activity, but then weightlifting is like a close second. I just absolutely love, especially for women, like feeling empowered and feeling strong, and like I love it. I think every woman should at least try it, whether that's in a gym setting or just at your own house with weights. I just love it. I absolutely love it. And of course, the benefits of maintaining your lean muscle mass or gaining lean muscle mass is going to be great for your metabolism over the course of a weight loss journey. Like when you lose weight, your metabolism is naturally going to decrease, and that's fine, that's normal. But by weightlifting and maintaining lean muscle mass or gaining some, you can really, really help the long-term health of your metabolism so that you can eat more over time. Also, like resistance training and heavy resistance training is one of the only things that can actually build strength, like make your bones stronger. And as women, that's really important, especially as we age, for osteoporosis and things like that. I think, and this is of course, like we're talking about stereotypical beauty standards here, so if that doesn't apply to you, like don't feel like you need to listen to this, but like for me, especially right now, I have over the course of the pandemic lost a lot of my muscle mass, and it's crazy. I'm noticing aesthetically how different my body looks because I no longer have that muscle mass. And when I started my whole like fitness journey, I was what some people might consider like skinny fat. I hate that term though. And so if you're going for that stereotypical like look, weightlifting is important to give you that fullness and like that curviness that a lot of people are looking for. You can see, I'll put it up here, of like one of my bodybuilding photos on stage. You can see that I'm not like, and of course this is subjective, I wouldn't consider this to be bulky. And at this point I had been dedicating like months and months and months and months to gaining as much muscle mass as possible. So I think weightlifting is so grossly underrated. Calorie tracking. Now this is tough because I'm definitely biased. I want to put it in the yes category because of the way that I go about calorie tracking. But if this is like the stereotypical, like I'm just tracking my calories, and like I said with IIFYM, it can be very similar where you use it as an excuse or a reason to just like eat like an a-hole all the time. You know, I'm definitely biased. You know what? I'm going to put it in the yes category because of the way that I do things with calorie tracking and the way that I promote it. But otherwise, I would be putting it in the you do you category. So you can watch my calorie deficit explained video. You can watch, I'm trying to think of the other ones that are related to calorie tracking. I need to make more, honestly. But the way that I look at calorie tracking is like a tool to teach you about food and discover what balance looks like for you with health and enjoyment and all of these things. Like, I think calorie tracking is a great tool. It is not the right decision for everybody though. Like, you might not be somebody who calorie tracking would be the right decision for you. So don't feel like you have to. Actually, the video I posted last week is like all about how to decide whether or not calorie tracking is the right decision for you. So that would be a good one to watch if you're curious about like my whole opinion on it and what I think of kind of how to decide, basically. So I'm biased. That's why it's in that category. I'm going to be completely honest. If anybody else were doing this ranking and they put calorie tracking in a you do you or even the overrated category, I would understand. I'll be like, you know what, that's fair. Because we all have different opinions. We all have different whatever. So that's also just disclaimer, like none of this is absolute. Obviously, there are going to be people who have totally different opinions about this, so don't take any of this as like the law. Like, I'm not the end all be all on this, okay? These are just my opinions. Intermittent fasting, I'm going to put that as a you do you. Like I mentioned, there are benefits, potential health benefits to fasting of all sorts. I know some really great evidence-based people who love intermittent fasting. I wouldn't call myself an intermittent faster, but like if I wake up in the morning and I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And if I am hungry, I do eat. Again, like I mentioned, like you can take certain principles from different things and just apply them to your life. So intermittent fasting, what I'll say is I can see the benefit of it when you're looking at it from a calorie restriction perspective, which is usually necessary for weight loss. And I don't mean restriction in like an unhealthy way. I just mean like managing your calories basically and making sure you're in the right energy balance. When you kind of get into the groove of it and you're not like just like horribly hungry all the time, it can be great because when you're eating in a shorter window, you are more likely to be satisfied from a smaller amount of calories or food. And so it can be an easy way for someone to be in the right energy balance without having to think about calories or anything like that. So it might work for some people for weight loss, it might work for others. So again, this is something that you really have to consider for you. Another thing to consider is that I think the majority of data that we have, and this might just be like I'm not aware of the data or the studies, but a lot of the nutrition research and fitness research is usually done on men, not as much on women. And I think there were potentially concerns, I don't know how much validity there is to these, that it's not a super great idea to do intermittent fasting for women because it can F up your hormones or something like that and like just not be that good. So if you have medical conditions, especially if you have hormone issues like myself, maybe reconsider intermittent fasting. And always, I think this is true for everything, always speak with a healthcare provider, a registered dietitian, a doctor, if you have specific concerns about any of these diets or you're wanting to do any of these diets and you have medical concerns or even like a, you know, not a good relationship with food. Always, always, always consult a professional, not me. I'm not a registered dietitian, I'm not a doctor, don't ask me. Find the right person to talk to about this stuff. And if you need some resources, shoot me an email, send me a DM. I can send you in the direction of the right person to talk to. Okay, last one, walking. I'm curious where you guys think I'm gonna stick this one. Grossly underrated. I think people look at walking and they're like, oh, that doesn't do very much. And yeah, maybe on the grand scheme of things, when you look at like what type of activity burns the most calories, walking is not high on the list, but walking is underrated, definitely. If you are someone who is very sedentary like moi, like I sit in this chair all day long and like work, I'm like the most sedentary fitness professional on the planet, walking is great. I live on the 3rd floor, I'll walk down. There's a bunch of snow outside and it's cold, so I haven't been lately, but I'll just walk laps around my apartment complex because I know I need some physical activity in during the day. So what I'll say about walking is there are 2 different major ways that your body burns calories aside from like your BMR and digestion, and that's exercise activity and non-exercise activity. And non-exercise activity is something that people don't really think about very often, but is such a big influence on your ability to lose weight. So walking can be put into that category of like non-exercise activity. You could also consider it exercise, and that's totally fine, but like just in general, don't underestimate how powerful daily movement is, regardless if it's like a crazy HIIT style workout that burns a ton of calories. Like consistent daily activity, including walking, is a great thing. If I have a client who's struggling to lose weight and like their calories are usually pretty decent, my first thing is like, how many steps are you walking per day? Can we have you hit a step goal? That's a big foundation of like what I've seen can make or break whether or not somebody gets results. So don't underestimate walking. It's grossly underrated. Okay, that was super fun, not gonna lie. Probably one of my favorite videos I've ever done. If you guys think of anything else that you want me to rank, I'm down. Let me know in the comments if you guys were surprised by any of these, if you disagree with me, if it helped give you some insight into something that maybe you didn't understand before. I want to hear your thoughts. So yeah, what a fun time. Thank you, Hiram, for doing the 2 videos that I saw and inspired me to do this, and for fixing my face. I super appreciate you if you're watching this. For some reason, I know you're not. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow me on TikTok and on Instagram, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.